Reading 111 from the Psychological Commentaries on the Teaching of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky by Dr. Maurice Nicoll, Volume 3, Great Animal House, February 28, 1948. Commentary on Imaginary I and False Personality. Work idea. The work says that if you want things different, you must change yourself. Man is in imaginary I and false personality. As long as he is in this inner situation, he cannot develop internally, and so everything will remain as before. He will attract the same life. Man has a wrong relation to himself. He lives in the basement of himself, and so cannot reach his right life. Commentary. At a recent meeting here, I spoke about imaginary I and false personality from the point of view that unless this inner situation begins to alter, nothing can alter. This means that you will always attract the same life, the same experiences, the same disappointments, the same sense of frustration, the same boredom, the same internally unsatisfactory existences, and so on. The work says, change yourself and your life will change. Remain the same in yourself and everything in your life will remain the same and repeat itself. It is always worthwhile for a person to remind herself or himself of this central idea of the work. Remain the same as regards your being, and you can only attract the same things that hitherto you have attracted. Understand that if you remain the same in your being, in the kind of person you are, you cannot possibly have anything different. Change your being, and your life will change. Do nothing to change yourself, and your life will, and inevitably must, remain the same. Suppose some prominent feature in you centers in being lazy in regard to what you could be good at, and you make any efforts but the right one. Remain lazy, and your life will be the same. Suppose you are mean to yourself or to others, as thinking meanly of others. Remain mean, and your life will be the same. You have no charity. Suppose you are a confirmed liar to yourself and to others. Remain a liar, and your life will remain the same. Begin to change yourself, and your life will instantly change. It is possible to understand that if one remains the person one is, nothing changes in one's life. You take everything in the same way. You may think by going somewhere you will change your life. After a time, everything will repeat itself as before. We look out, thinking that by changing outside things we can experience another life. But if you reflect, how can this possibly be so? You can only experience yourself. You yourself, with your continual laziness, your particular meanness, your continual indignation or quarrelsomeness, your continual internal considering and preoccupation with wretched yourself that you exalt to heaven, your continual sense of self-pity, and so on, will inevitably reproduce this tiresome opera called yourself, wherever you go in space or in time. So you will experience the same difficulties and disappointments, east, west, north, or south, wherever you go. Because you are always experiencing yourself, you never see that the cause lies in yourself, in the kind of being you have, in the kind of person you are. And let me say, each person is a formidable subject, quite apart from the dazzling exterior. Now this work is not about the dazzling exterior, but about the not at all dazzling interior. This work does not direct the attention to the external side of things, seen via the exterior senses, but to the internal side, seen via the internal senses, which are more numerous than the external senses and far more interesting. So we come to what the work says, man or woman is in imaginary I and false personality. As long as this is the case, nothing can change. Nowadays, of course, it is very difficult in this extroverted world of people, where everyone thinks the solution of things lies in outer changes and political creeds and scientific discoveries. It is very difficult, I say, for anyone to have that reserve of force that makes it possible for a man or woman to hear even a single word of what this work is teaching. Change, people think, can only be outside, not within. There is a continual outer noise or outer sensation or outer distraction going on, so much so that a person begins to think that unless he hears everything and sees everything, he does not properly live. This is the extroverted phase of life, which depends on the external senses being satisfied with the external impressions. One can, however, get internal impressions from conscience, if we gain real conscience. As I said, the work is internal and is about change of oneself, not change in outer circumstances. I ask you, how can you have a better world if people are not better? But as people are losing all sense of understanding and do not wish to think at all, we can expect it will be more and more difficult to find people who wish to work on themselves. Everything is inevitably going mass. That is, no one thinks individually. Gurdjieff said once, "Nothing can stop the present movement of the pendulum. It will soon be either ants or bees." But he added that now, since people are throwing away the small amount of consciousness they are given, it is possible for some people to collect this unwanted and unused consciousness and begin to awaken. In the Gospels it says, "To him that hath shall be given, and from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath." He said that there is only so much force of consciousness at any particular time. It is like a gold bath, he said in so many words. If you dip too many spoons in it, each will only get a spot of gold and become useless. The spoons will be neither one thing nor another. People do not understand that intelligence, for example, is weighed and measured like everything else on this planet. To be really intelligent, he emphasized the word, is not possible for everyone. The reason is that intelligence is a measured thing, a force, in fact, a definite substance of which there is a definite amount available at each period of time. If it is concentrated, you will, as a result, get a certain number of intelligent people. If you scatter it, no one will be intelligent, and we will even lose the instinctive intelligence that we share with the animals. I asked him once, when I was in France, if there were not too many people on this earth for it to support. But I did not understand his reply, save that it was based on the idea that everything happens in the only way it can happen, and no one can do anything. Now you can only collect conscious force from those not wanting it by self-remembering. If you are asleep, that is, identified with everything taking place outside yourself in the visible world, and everything taking place inside yourself in your invisible world, with every thought, mood, emotion, sensation, then you are asleep, and so not remembering yourself. You are in the so-called waking state, the second state, which Western psychology takes as full waking consciousness, a tragic mistake. Being asleep, you will feed the big pain factory of the huge machine of organic life. But recall that there is a side ladder shown in the ray of creation up to that level indicated externally by the actual sun, which corresponds with higher centers in man's 3-story house. By remembering yourself, you cut yourself off for the moment from the drain of force that is being taken from you every moment by identifying. If, said Gurdjieff, man were properly conscious, he would not serve nature. He was created to awaken, to develop, but he is gradually losing all sense of himself, losing indeed everything of value for himself. Now, if you are in imaginary I and false personality, you will be used to the full by the forces acting on this earth in relation to producing enough pain to satisfy the demands of our position in the ray of creation. As you know, or should know, organic life, this vast, sensitive film covering the surface of the earth, is a transmitter of force to the satellite below the earth in scale, the moon. Everything, remember, is growing. We do not live in a dying universe, but a growing one. Our little branch on the enormous tree is very unimportant in the totality of things. But everything has been worked out in detail for it. We have been told for ages how to come under other influences and no longer serve nature. Yes, but it is necessary to work on oneself in order to do this. It cannot be done for you by legislation. If we could always self-remember, we would not serve the pain factory of nature. Man, said Gurdjieff, was born in a state of self-remembering. Being born among sleeping people, he fell asleep. This work is to wake us up. Now, how do you yourself serve this pain factory? By actual pain? Yes, of course. By any other kind of pain? Yes, by much subtler pain than animals can offer. Take all the psychological pain that arises from imaginary I and false personality, by envies, jealousies, and hatreds, by all the unhappinesses of not being properly recognized, of not receiving what you think you are owed, by depression at not being the success that you think you should be, and 1,001 other forms of subtle psychological pain. The Gospels speak of a peace passing all understanding. Have you got this inner peace? How can we have it if our center of gravity lies in imagination, in imaginary I, and in false personality, which are both composed of imagination? Someone compliments you. Your dress looks nice. You did so-and-so very well. You gave an excellent impression, and so on. This satisfies imaginary I at any rate. It gives you a sense of peace. You love everyone. Yet I fancy this is not the peace passing all understanding. It merely satisfies your false personality, your imaginary I, your picture of yourself. Wait a moment. Another person comes along and says your dress is the wrong color and obviously dates. You weren't your best and didn't look it, and you did not give a very good impression. And lo, where is this peace that comes merely from false personality, from satisfied vanity? Can vanity ever be satisfied? Yes, a clever trick is vanity. In regard to the pain factory, is it not? Your satisfaction has vanished. Now you are full of negative feelings. You hate everyone. That is, you are now a very satisfactory worker in the pain factory, a star worker, and draining away a good amount of force per second, which is used for other purposes than your own health or well-being. And yet, no doubt, you still are thinking that if you had another house, husband, wife, car, you would be really happy. Now, what is the cure the work suggests in regard to imaginary I? The work says, imaginary I must go. The work suggests that if you begin to use the first inner sense that can be developed, called the power of self-observation, or observing I, you will find that you have many different I's, all contradictory, and that you have no real I, and so this imaginary I is not you at all. This is the first real step in the work, to break up the imagination that you have one real, permanent I. This illusion the work calls imaginary I. To do this may take years, and I notice in some cases after many years, indeed, this illusion still holds its sway, with the result that nothing in being can change very much. Now, you cannot begin to work, in my view, on false personality until you begin to weaken the strength of that form of imagination called imaginary I. How dare you, sir, speak to me like that? Do you not know, sir, who I am? I am Dr. Nicole. Once you can bear to broaden your consciousness to that extent whereby you lose this self-important I, often oh so modest, and see with inner sight that this pseudo-master you have followed hitherto is a form of imagination and is not existent, and that you can take everything in quite a new and different and easier way by shifting your feeling of I, and need not continue to be the unparalleled idiot you have been, that has been the cause of your unhappiness, whether man or woman. Then you can begin to see into your false personality, in the midst of which lives imaginary I, as in a fortress. This is a good thing to do. So start by what the work teaches you to start with. Observe how you are not one but many. See for a fact by self-observation that you are not one I but many. Notice how, speaking to your darling on the telephone so sweetly, if you cannot hear her, how soon another I begins to speak to her. Notice how you are not one and the same all the time. Notice, in short, that imaginary I is imagination. Get rid of this clever psychological illusion, and then you will begin to see false personality. This is the first step in awakening from the state of sleep that governs the world.